Well, if you're back, you must be a horror fan. So lucky for you, there is a part 3 in our series of horror films inspired by true stories. Psycho. Psycho is recognized as one of the greatest films in history, arguably Alfred Hitchcock's most famous and influential movie. It was released on September 8, 1960, based on the novel by Robert Bloch, which hit bookstores in 1959. Hitchcock had optioned the film rights to the book before it was even released. He bought almost all copies of the book that he could upon its release, so the public would not know about the twist ending at the climax of the movie. Author Robert Bloch was fascinated by the true story of serial killer Ed Gein and used his psychopathy as the template for Norman Bates, adding an emotional depth and level of realism not seen before in film. In Plainfield, Wisconsin in 1957, Gein was arrested for the murder of 2 women and eventually sent to a mental asylum where he died in 1984. Ed was a small, unassuming man that everyone in the small town of Plainfield knew. He lived with his deeply religious, domineering mother for years, and when she passed away, Gein's world collapsed, and he did everything in his power to bring her back. In addition to the murders, it was revealed that Gein was a ghoul who examined multiple bodies from their graves and used them to make lampshades, furniture, and other items that decorated his farmhouse. But more disturbingly, Gein had created a bodysuit made of human skin that he would wear in an attempt to be his mother. Psycho influenced a host of movie murderers, spawned 3 sequels, a TV movie, as well as the critically acclaimed A&E series Bates Motel. Today, visitors to Universal Hollywood Studios can still visit the infamous Bates house and motel on the backlot. Jaws. The massive success of Jaws created the term summer blockbuster and made Steven Spielberg a household name. It also has one of the simplest and most recognizable themes in movie history. The 2-note stroke of genius by composer John Williams almost did not make the final cut. Spielberg, upon first hearing the now infamous music, thought it would not work. Well, we all make mistakes. On July 1st, 1916, in Beach Haven, a seaside town on the Jersey Shore, Charles Van Sant was attacked and killed by a shark swimming not far from the beach. The story was not widely reported, however. One headline even stated, "Man killed by fish." But further north, in Spring Lake on July 6th, Charles Bruder was attacked and both his legs were bitten off, which many scientists of the day, including those at the Museum of Natural History in New York, did not believe a shark was capable of doing. The story eventually faded into local folklore, but little could the people of New Jersey realize that 60 years later, their 12 Days of Terror, as it has become known, would give birth to a Hollywood icon. Halloween. When you think of Halloween, you think of Michael Myers and his now iconic mask. With one of the creepiest villains and most memorable themes ever created, Halloween was one of the most successful horror films of all time. It was released on October 25th, 1978, and made for a budget of $300,000. It grossed $70 million worldwide. It was the most successful independent film ever made for almost a decade, and spawned a franchise which included 11 films, novels, comic books, and video games. But Halloween writer and director John Carpenter revealed that the character Michael Myers was also inspired by a real-life experience he had in college. While attending Western Kentucky University, Carpenter visited a mental institution for one of his classes. There he saw a boy no older than 13 with a schizophrenic stare which haunted him. It was this boy's pale, blank, emotionless face which led to the infamous Dr. Loomis line describing Michael as having the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. The boy inspired the creation of Michael Myers, but the name also came from an actual person. No, not that guy that played Austin Powers, but a film distributor that Carpenter and producing partner Deborah Hill had worked with. Halloween producer Mustafa Akkad said the premise of the film was also based on a real event. He pitched an idea to Carpenter based on a story he had once read about the unsolved murder of a babysitter. Some film buffs believe it was the unsolved murder of Janet Christman in 1950, which ironically inspired the classic film When a Stranger Calls. Deborah Hill immediately recognized the fear factor, as many young girls have babysat during their teen years, but it was Carpenter who suggested the perfect time of year and title to set the movie to, and the rest is horror film history. So, we hope you've enjoyed this third look at stories that inspired horror movies, and remember, when it comes to horror movies, the facts are scarier than fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, it's a great world.